Hello everybody, the iLord Root here, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program Career Mode. Our big goal today is to get pretty much science as we can out of the moon. We do have, a couple of research goals for us so we can start building better rockets, and so we can in fact, build better space stations, and those are going to be the heavy rocketry and the metamaterials. It turns out that one of the things that I forgot to do last time was I forgot to go with large control, and that's a prerequisite for both of them. So I went ahead and briefly added that in. If we don't really, no, don't control from here. We want to control from here. Um, I guess before we ship off, we do want to make sure that our fuel is maximal. And it should be. We didn't really use any fuel. That means we just have to fill up our RCS. And because of that, we'll just quick save real quick. The thing I was going to say is we have a bunch of instruments that we've added to this lander. Some of them we've already done. A couple of them are new, like I believe the accelerometer. Let me just plug in my mouse real quick so that we can zoom in a bit. The idea is basically going to be we're going to visit these biomes that we haven't really looked at. And so where have we been? Well, we have been to the Twin Craters, to the Midlands. Those are, of course, right below us. I think we've been to the Farland craters on the other side of the world. I think that's in the Münar Highlands. And so we have a number of craters to look at. So if we have the Twin Craters there, and I'm looking at a map right now. Looks like maybe the best thing for us to do is we might consider possibly bringing this orbit out just a little bit so we can make an inclination change. Or we'll even just do an inclination change here. We'll visit the poles. I think that's a good thing to do. So let's just get ourselves out of the way of this rickety space station, which I do hope to replace soon. And we'll basically we'll target the Münar Station, since that's more or less on the deal. That's we'll change our inclination to, well, actually, why don't we visit this deal right here, and we should have a lot in the way of delta V when we do. Now the moon will rotate a little bit, so that's something to think about. But this one crater here has the opportunity to give us a lot of science. There's some, I think, 11 or 13 biomes on the moon, which is definitely nice. So we only need 70 meters per second of delta V there. And that will, of course, involve a retrograde burn at our periapsis. Unfortunately, the amount of fuel in this thing means we're going to have to go between the station and back. And it really, for science, Minmus might have been a better target. But if we can get enough science to get heavy rocketry and get our main cell engine, then we can consider, building a space station near Minmus. So we'll wait for that thing to come up. I'm going to give ourselves a little bit of a burn. So that is a 24-second burner, so we need to enable our engines. And you can see we're already beginning to slow down just a little bit. Let's see, we do have our solar panels out. This thing may or may not have the endurance in order to get us into a polar orbit. But with that having been said, we'll go ahead and we will get ready to move this thing down. So we're going to extend our gear. And now we're hitting the surface, so before too long, I'm not gonna kill this velocity until we get pretty close in. This horizontal velocity, because we do have a good bit to kill. But we'll go ahead, we'll do that now. And depending on how much science we can get out of this, well, we might go ahead and do this again. If nothing else, what we can do is we can send Jebediah back. And that will help significantly. And we are going to get to the point to where we will need to kill some Delta V here in a bit. In fact, that will be soon. I'm gonna bring that down near about 50 or so. And we will, of course, be on the dark side of the moon. Now, I could do a suicide burn here, but I'm not really sure if I trust my ability to get that correct at this point. If we look at the capsule, then we should have an idea of, where's our vertical speed, where's our altimeter. We are fairly close. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'll kick down that throttle just a bit. In fact, I'll just let it go just a little bit. Although, you know what what I really want to do is I want to watch my altimeter, and when I get down to very close, which I think is about to hit us, we'll go ahead, we'll kick that down. We're about 1,000 right now. We're a little bit more than 1,000 actually, so Um, yeah, we'll just, we don't want to let this thing go, too far below us, but I mean, we do actually want to land, but we more or less have no no horizontal velocity at this point, and that's going to be good for us. And there we go, we've landed. So, what are some things we can do? Well, of course, we're going to want to take our goo. That should give us, really a fair amount of science that we can transmit. Our transmit limit is going to be a little bit higher than normal because we now have that station that I guess I hadn't really done much with, but we'll take our gravity data, and that'll help tremendously, of course. What do we got here? That is, I think that's the transmitter. No, that's the temperature, so we'll take our temperature data, and that must be the transmitter right there. So we've got one more deal. We have the seismic monitor. And I do not believe we have taken our materials study yet, so why don't we do that as well? And that is 100 science. Other than that, we'll want to do an EVA. And so we'll just, we'll just bring down that ladder, and Home Dude will, I guess we'll fall flat on his ass and we'll do an EVA report. So this is, I guess the twin craters we have here. We'll take a surface sample. This is the East Far Side crater. And we'll keep that data. We'll do an EVA report. And we will take that. We'll plant a flag here. That's the, what did we say it was? The East Far Side crater. Let's see, yeah, there we go. East Far Side crater. Very good. So, this should already help us with our science. Now, unfortunately, whoa. I guess this thing is a little bit more lightweight than I thought it was. And I am trapped under it. Let's not do that again. One more thing we'll want to do is we'll want to do a crew report. And that shouldn't be hard to do. We'll just take our crew report, and depending on our electric power, I think we've actually got plenty of it. We'll go ahead and we'll transmit this, because we can take another crew report up here. Except that's not biome specific, so let's just get back into orbit here. We'll catch up. And we might get ourselves into a little bit lower of an orbit. We don't really need to go into a phasing orbit. We just need to, well, we're very, very highly inclined here. So when we set that as a target, of course, we will be more or less, we'll be more or less set up. We could have back do another landing, but, I don't want to risk it. So what are we at right now? 3,100? Or 31,000 rather. And we'll just get that thing circularized. As we do have a little bit of time before we, we have to hit that. And that is a 1 second burn. I'm actually rather impressed by that. It's, this thing does have a little bit more endurance than I expected it to. Although it's usually, because I go into that phasing orbit, because we go into that phasing orbit, usually it's usually a little bit, on the slow side. But we will be able to do a Hohmann transfer. And that will be good for us. So the question is, how much science are we actually going to get out of this? Because we just really want enough for heavy rocketry. There we go. That is good in my book. I don't really understand what's going on here. Is there drag on the moon? There shouldn't be. We should be in our orbit should be just fine. Well, at any rate, we need to, we're descending, or we're ascending now, so let's burn south and try to get that ascending node going, since we do have a little bit of spare fuel on board. And we are burning the wrong way. We do in fact need to be burning north, which is a bit counterintuitive to me. In fact, here's a question over here, Art. Well, that's kind of weird. We must be out of, we must not have a very circular orbit on our space station. the only thing I can think. But we are catching up to this thing quite fast. So let's just get down to we're at our descending node at this point. We'll just bring down our inclination just a little bit. And what is our separation at that point? Hopefully not too much. As for why, our space station has such a high periapsis is a good question. It probably has to do with all those random rotations that we've encountered. Let's see if maybe we can't do something about that. Let's see if maybe we can get these guys to meet up. And keeping in mind we can't drop our periapsis too much, because if we do, then that constitutes a problem for us. So let's see, we are separated by how much? 155 kilometers. We are more or less inclined the way we want to be. We just have to be in orbit. Or we have to have really an orbit. And it did that, I think, because well, that's no good. We're going to go into the planet that way. You know what? Maybe I will do a phasing orbit. So we'll do a periapsis burn. Unless we're going to get closer. And it turns out we probably will not. So let's just phase our orbit just a little bit. Because at this point, we're probably better off slowing down. Or maybe that'll do it for us. And we can do our Hohmann transfer. But we do have to be careful, that's a little bit low of an orbit for us. So we have like 8 minutes until that burn comes up. And I think I'm gonna do a phasing orbit next time. Fortunately, if we run out of fuel, we do have plenty of RCS. It's our real periapsis. In fact, how close are we right now? If we get fairly close, and we are separated by quite a bit here. And if we get fairly close, then And what we can do is we can rotate this guy on inwards. That'll have the opposite effect. Well, then it looks like really the best we can do is when this distance gets down to about 10K or so, we'll just have to burn towards the deal. Because at this height, there's really no way that we're going to be able to get the desired intersects. However, there is that, so I think the phasing orbit idea is a much better idea. For a lot less delta V, we could actually affect that change pretty easily. Because we do have plenty of RCS. So let's find our maneuver node. It's somewhere around here. It is there, in fact. So how close are we? We are 2.3 kilometers. Which isn't the best, but it'll do. I mean, it's really, in this case, there's little that can be done, I would think. So the question is, where is our target? Because I just saw it. Let's get pointing towards the target. Because we don't really have much to lose there. Why don't we just null out that velocity for now? It's or we'll get close by and do that. Because we don't really there we go. We'll just burn straight towards the target. And how close are we anyway? It doesn't seem to want to give us our closest approach. There we go, 1.6 kilometers. 1.1 kilometers. That's a good start. And we'll get into position here for burning retrograde towards the target. So we will have a lot of science to send back. Um, these samples, these samples, it's going to be difficult to tell if it's going to be worth, if it's going to be worth, doing, like maybe processing them in the lab or just sending them out. In fact, I probably should give us a little bit more velocity. Maybe we'll go in at 2 meters per second or something. And hopefully, we won't, hopefully we won't end up, so see if we can get that a little bit closer. Hopefully that won't, end up, causing too many issues for us. I don't know if we're quite going to have the science that we're looking forward to, but we will nonetheless have a fair amount of science coming out of this. So just let's not fly past this thing, as that could be bad. Let's just attempt to get close enough to dock. And that will be pretty soon, I reckon. So let's go ahead, we'll select this one docking port because it seems to be the closest. In fact, let's just go in a wee bit more. In the meantime, we can get in position. And hopefully we'll we won't do this weird thing that happened to me earlier with the okay, we're wasting a bunch of RCS by doing that. We have to be careful. I mean, part of the issue here, it would seem, is that we're so, well, first of all, I think we're rotating, and it turns out, yes, we are. Which is why, I intend to deorbit this thing once, once we get the necessary science out of it. We don't want to kill what little crew is there, of course, but we'll we'll set this guy up for docking, and hopefully that will have arrested our rotation a bit. So let's just go ahead. We'll kill our. No. This is not bound to go well because um, I accidentally went the wrong direction. I hit my Windows key, and so it kicked me out of KSP for a bit. We'll just go ahead. Docking doesn't really have to be perfect. We just need to, we need to get this guy lined up. And we should dock pretty soon. And we will, of course, get these guys lined up as well. And RCS off, and SAS off. That should get us. Okay, so we can do some things now. First of all, well, I think we're good to start processing. We'll process this temperature scan. That will give us half of our science, I think. It'll give us a little bit more. We'll transmit that for 24 science. We'll add 15% to that as well. We've got that detailed analysis. Let's see what else we have. How much is this draining our battery anyway? Well, it looks like this detailed analysis will help us at least some. And we'll just get this shit transmitted. So the nice thing is we have more than enough electricity for this to help us. Now, of course, from all that, we probably only got a couple hundred science towards our goal. And the seismic scan, it does seem to be one of the better ones to do here. But with that having been said, we've got another task to do. We have to clean our experiments. And we have to do our gravity scan as well. So while we're doing that, we might as well refuel and hit up, first of all, we'll want to hit up, yeah, we'll transmit that. We will grab some data, and then we'll fill up these fuel tanks as well. And that will help us in the long run. I mean, I'm thinking at this point that the design for the lander that I have is to some degree a little bit flawed, and that it doesn't have much in the way of endurance. I don't know if we're going to be able to hit those poles very easily. But, with that having been said, we'll get everything going. And I wish there was an easier way to fill everything up here. But, there's not. So, in the Münar Station design, I'm sure, we will do a deal to where, we will more or less, set this thing up so that, A, it doesn't flex as much, and B, to where maybe we'll have, a series of, independent probes that we can carry on our lander. And as far as the instrumentation is concerned, that would probably end up, you know, what we'd probably do is we put small engines on them so that, you know, they can go back on their own power. And maybe we'll even put small landing legs on them. I mean, it's, one thing that would be kind of interesting to unlock is the miniature probes. Because the idea is if we could send these things down on their own power, and then maybe dock them, then, let's see, what do we have here? We need to get this guy fueled up. This guy too. If we could send them down on their own power and then possibly, set them up so that they can get back to the planet on their own. And then, what we can do is we can more or less, get these guys set up to where, let me just take a look at this. I guess the stored data, maybe the EVA report, we might as well send that out. When these guys get in on their own power, then we can, send them back and recover them. And that may be better than using the lab. I mean, the deal with the lab, of course, is that You could only transmit so much back from the lab, making it a little bit less useful. However, with that having been said, once we get this thing set up properly, we will, um, we will attempt another. I probably shouldn't have done that, should I? Refueling does kind of suck in that regard. But yeah, I guess what I was going to say is we'll maybe, maybe we'll send these things back. I'm not sure if the processing affects, the return value from the sample. Be rather interesting if it did. But, we'll send that back from Menmus and hopefully get a ton of science out of it. I mean, in reality, if we send a bunch of, you know, I guess a bunch of, sample return canisters back from the moon, then that will work just fine. We've already used like half our fuel, so let's see what else we have here. My guess is we will want to hit this crater down here. And that may be a little bit more difficult to do. Although that may be, I think that is the Midlands there. There actually is a biome there, so why don't we go check it out? And we'll take that data and we'll send it back. In fact, what we could probably do here is send this guy back with Jeb. Now there is that crater there we could hit that we have not. So why don't we do that? We will make a small inclination change. We're going to burn south. And we'll hit this crater down here because it looks like we haven't been there. And why don't we, while we're at it, we'll get this guy on down here to this far side crater. And that will hopefully give us enough in the way of science. Now we will keep this minimally staffed, I think. I mean, the big issue here, I think, is going to be, well, whether or not we are going to have enough in the way of delta V to easily get back up. But we'll let this guy get down to you know, several seconds of delta V or whatever. And we'll have to remember that's a biome there too. The hard ones, I think, are going to be, there's a crater right over here, near the east far side crater, that will be, you know, it'll be a little bit more difficult for us. Such as that is, I think, you know, I think we'll be okay once we get past the lip of the crater. Although we may just run. Oh no, we're already in the crater. Alright, I'm gonna arrest my horizontal velocity then. At least to the point to where, you know, we're going to, get on down here. And this is actually going to be quite a difficult burn to pull off, I think. We don't want to crash this thing. And that would probably be quite bad. And how are we on our deal here? We will have to pretty soon bring this guy down quite a bit, because we're already 400 meters per second out of the way. Or 400 meters, rather. And we will, of course, need to suicide burn. Given that we have plenty of RCS, I think I'm going to do a phasing orbit this time. Just for the purposes of, you know, just for the purposes of getting everything lined up. But yeah, we'll touch down a little bit hard here, but that'll be okay. So we're at about 50% fuel here. We'll just go ahead and we will do our mystery go again. We'll do materials bay too. And all of these awesome experiments. We'll grab ourselves a crew report, which we'll just go ahead and transmit since there's no penalty for it. We'll, we'll take that as well and bring it back up to the lab. I am a little bit bewildered as to why, um, as to why this data, like, you can't send stuff like the raw data, like the temperature data, with 100%. There's really no reason I can think of why you shouldn't be able to. Such as it is, it's really, all there is to it. So we'll do this. We'll take an EVA report. It's in the east crater. We'll plant, or we'll take our surface sample, and we'll plant our flag. And this will be east crater. East crater, not creator. This thing is known for creating things, I guess. Anyway, Sigfin will now get back into the capsule and we will rendezvous with the station again. And looks like 90 is just below us, so we'll get up into orbit here in a bit. A good phasing orbit is probably going to be, oh, I don't know, maybe 100. And we really should, at this point, be, getting up to the point to where, we widen out our orbit a bit. Now you're probably saying something to the effect of, well, why are we now burning down here? And the reason is actually rather simple. So we want to increase our periapsis. So let's set the station as our target again. Let's see if we can find a way to bring these guys together. Although I bet you if we do our apoapsis burn to circularize this, see, what are we at, 147? It's not going to take much in the way of delta V. I mean, we can use our RCS for that, which we actually have I forgot to fill that back up, but we have plenty of RCS. And because we are so inclined and everything, we're not going to get a good we're not going to get a good orbit anyway. So let's just see if we burn forward how much of that we'll need. We're at 144 right now. Well, you know what, that'll be good enough. And we barely used any fuel for that. So, yeah, we're now going to be here. We'll set up a descending node maneuver to where we bring this guy up fairly quickly. Get our inclination in order here. That'll take about 30 minutes or so, but fortunately for us, we're fairly well set up here. We got 3 minutes until we hit that burn. And we did miss that very slightly, but it's okay because, while it might require a little bit more fuel, let's see if we can get that lined up exactly. Oh, that's close enough, I think. Well, it may require a little bit more fuel. We are going to be fairly close in. So let's see if we can get an encounter. We'll just have to find the right place in our orbit to do so. That's 1 kilometer. Can we do any better? 0.6, 0.4. We'll just go back to 0.4, 0.3. I think that's going to be the best we're going to be able to do, and that's 40 meters per second. We'll save the fuel in reserve for, I guess, when we're going to, when we're going to get close enough to for it to actually matter. So why don't we just we'll go ahead, we'll burn down. There we go. So where are we at on our separation? 0.5. Okay, that's going to be good enough for me, I think. Because when we get down near our target, um, it'll mean that we're, well, first of all, we're gonna have to kill a lot of velocity very quickly. And I'm gonna start doing that, um, pretty soon, and I'm gonna, maybe do that. I guess, when we get to about 1 kilometer per second. And what is our separation now? We are going to run out of fuel very quickly, I think, but and I should have probably waited a bit on that. There's really not much we can do about it now. We'll just give ourselves about 2 meters per second of delta V, I think. And we'll do what we can to get this close. Because we are going to be pretty close, it looks like. And before too long, we're going to have to kill that velocity. We'll just get in as close as we can. When we start going back up, I think that's going to be the time for us to kill our delta V. We'll get over here. Because we're really close now. You know, even this amount I think is overkill. And that amount of delta V definitely has to go. Oh, it looks like our closest. Well, first of all, let's make sure that this thing stays right where it's at. And let's select this docking port, since we now at least know that it's going to be close by. And we will just get ourselves going in there very slightly. Maybe, maybe the slander isn't as bad as I thought it was. I mean, I was thinking we weren't, we're gonna have limited endurance on the slander, but it does seem to be doing pretty well as long as we don't, you know, abuse our orbits or whatever. I mean, we still have plenty of fuel left from this. Which, if you ask me, is very nice. I mean, there's very little else that could really go wrong here in docking this. This is, of course, I guess I'm kind of cheating because I'm using Navy Fish's mod, but this is a rather, um, this is good, a rather good experience once I've gotten used to the rendezvous is, I guess, what takes the longest. And because we're getting so close, we will go ahead and I'll just turn off the SAS as we're good enough. And we're docked again, so let's go ahead, we'll process our lab data. And we'll start transmitting. And yes, we are using a lot of power, but we've also intentionally got a lot of power in the station. And so the unfortunate thing is that we do we do have I guess we do have surface samples that we can transmit, but we did do detailed analysis on it. I mean, eventually we're going to have to go back to all these places, it looks like. Let's see if there's anything else to process. We got the gravity scan. And we could transmit that. And then once we're done with that, we'll clean the module. And I think it'll be time for us to see really what, if we look at the if we look at this module here, review stored data, we'll transmit these crew reports. Let's see. Or anything else here? We'll send off that that sensor data as well. And hopefully, let's see, hopefully we will be done after this. I mean, I guess while we're doing the lab analysis, I will, of course, refuel again. That should maybe give us about 400 sites, I'm hoping. I didn't really keep count. If not, we will at least have enough to send, I guess to send some stuff to Minmus, which I'll make my next mission. I think that, we'll probably do better with science spamming on Minmus. Of course, while we're at it, we'll clean these experiments as well, in case we ever want to come back here. Because, I mean, we could salvage our probe pretty easily. You know, we'll just have to... We'll just have to, keep it attached. This thing, however, I think, you know, I think it'll be good if, we send this thing into the ground soon, because it's not really the most stable space station. Really, as far as docking is concerned, you know, we could do a whole lot better on it. I mean, unfortunately, that's sort of the nature of the beast for us, is that we've got this really unstable space station, and, had I thought about it, I could have taken care of it a lot more easily. But I didn't really think about it, so it's not really the best deal for us. I mean, unfortunately, it's just a little bit too wobbly. I mean, it's useful, don't get me wrong. But it's also very wobbly. And having to double check to see if we can keep the orientation right is no fun at all. Plus, we now have that cupola module that has reaction wheels built into it that we could potentially use for, we could potentially use that for crew storage as well. See, where were we? This guy. This guy needs to be filled up. So I'm hoping when we return we'll have about 400 science. We left with about 111. We might have 500 actually. We need like 550. But we're not really going to worry about we're not really going to worry about getting this thing um we can send a probe if we run out of science, and in fact we can do some stuff on we can do some stuff on um the planet Kerbin. That would be very good, that we'll be able to get the rest of that science from. And so I may just do that because it shouldn't be too hard to construct a probe, like a rover or whatever. And just near the space center, we can probably get oh, I don't know about I'm thinking at least another 100. In the meantime, we do want to think about our fuel situation some, because that will be important to us. We do have that Kethane satellite up in orbit, but unfortunately we can't really get science from that. It's not the best place to get science, at least. We'll go to the Space Center, we'll see if it tells us how much science we got. And if we're slightly under, we will create a probe. So let's see. Our total science is 558. We have just enough to be able to afford this guy right here, which will lead to better rocket designs. So, anyway, this has been Thy Lord Root, and I will see you later.